phone screen glowing face up on black marble. The same deep voice that just murmured, "I love you, beautiful," now speaks in clipped Korean. Cold, efficient, final. The disposal timeline is set. Make it look like an accident. The intro. Brielle stands frozen in their Seoul penthouse. Vanilla candles flickering across surfaces that cost more than most people's homes. The lilies Do-yeon brought her this morning, 100 white stems because anything less isn't worthy of you, suddenly smell like a funeral. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't disappear like Brielle. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next twist. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your location right now. Your support means everything. And I can't wait to bring you more stories that make your heart race. Thank you for being here. His voice continues through the phone he left behind, that same velvet tone she's learned to trust, to crave, now arranging her death with the same care he used to plan their honeymoon. She hears his father, the chairman, grunt approval. She hears the exact date, 3 weeks, right after the port deal finalizes. She hears Do-yeon confirm he'll keep her comfortable and unaware until then. The woman in the floor-to-ceiling window reflection, designer dress, perfect curls, skin glowing like she's been dipped in gold, looks like someone's beloved wife. Brielle touches her own face, those full lips he kissed an hour ago, and realizes she's been living in a gilded cage. Her marriage isn't a love story. It's an execution with a countdown timer. And the man who whispers her name like a prayer every night is the one holding the knife. The phone shouldn't still be connected. Do-yeon never forgets his phone. Brielle stares at the screen glowing against black marble, his name displayed in white letters that feel like an accusation. He'd kissed her goodbye 20 minutes ago, those big hands cradling her face like she was something precious, breakable. "I'll be home soon, beautiful. Don't wait up." She'd smiled against his mouth, tasted mint and promises. Now she tastes bile. The voices coming through the speaker are muffled but clear enough. A boardroom. Multiple men. The chairman's voice cuts through first. Do-yeon's father, a man who's never looked at her with anything warmer than calculation. The Lee family expects the merger finalized by spring. His Korean is clipped, businesslike. The girl has served her purpose with the port expansion. She's a liability now. Brielle's hand hovers over the phone. Hang up. She should hang up. She doesn't. What about the wife? Another voice, younger, nervous. Silence stretches like pulled wire. Then Do-yeon speaks, and her knees almost give out because his voice, that deep velvet voice that whispers filthy things and sweet nothings in the dark, sounds exactly the same. Calm, controlled, cold. "I'll handle it." "Handle it?" The chairman's tone sharpens. "This isn't a business negotiation, Do-yeon. The American needs to disappear. Cleanly. The Lee family won't accept a divorced bride's father-in-law." Brielle's reflection stares back at her from the window. Designer dress. Perfect curls. Skin that glows like it's been kissed by something divine. She looks like a woman who's winning at life. She's about to die. "I understand." Do-yeon's voice doesn't waver, doesn't hesitate. 3 weeks. After the Seoul gala. I'll keep her distracted until then. She won't suspect anything. "You're certain?" The chairman presses. "She's not stupid, your wife. That's why we used her in the first place." A pause. Then Do-yeon speaks again, and this time there's something else in his tone. Not affection. Strategy. "She's in love with me, father. She won't see it coming." Brielle's hand finds her throat, fingers pressing against the diamond necklace he fastened there this morning. He'd stood behind her at the mirror, lips brushing her ear. "Perfect. Like you." The conversation continues. Logistics, timelines, the name of the woman from the Lee family he'll marry next. A 23-year-old heiress with political connections and a father who controls half of Busan. Brielle sinks onto the marble floor, expensive fabric pooling around her. The vanilla candles keep burning. The lilies keep bleeding their funeral scent into air that suddenly feels too thick to breathe. 3 weeks. The phone screen dims, then goes dark. She doesn't move to disconnect it. She sits there, in her gilded cage, and learns what it feels like when the man you love confirms you're already dead. The elevator chimes at exactly 7 p.m., the way it always does when Do-Yun comes home. Brielle doesn't move from where she's sitting, curled into the corner of their white leather sofa, a glass of wine she hasn't touched going warm in her hand. She's had 3 hours to prepare. 3 hours to decide who she'll be when he walks through that door. The beloved wife. The unsuspecting prey. She hears his footsteps first, that confident stride across marble. Then she smells him, his cologne, something dark and expensive that clings to his suits. When he appears in the doorway, he's holding roses, not a dozen, not 2 dozen. 100 long-stemmed red roses so excessive they barely fit in his arms. "For my beautiful girl," he says, and his voice is honey, pure warmth. The same voice that said disposal timeline just hours ago. Brielle forces her lips into a smile. Do-Yun, they're gorgeous. He crosses to her in 3 strides, setting the roses on the glass coffee table before pulling her up into his arms. His hands slide to her waist, familiar and possessive, and he buries his face in her neck. "I missed you," he murmurs against her skin. "Every second I'm away from you feels wrong." She closes her eyes, lets herself lean into him the way she used to, before she knew. His heartbeat is steady against her cheek. Calm. Unbothered. He's a better actor than she ever gave him credit for. "Rough day?" she asks softly, playing her part. "Nothing I can't handle." He pulls back, cupping her face with those big hands, the same hands that have killed, that will kill her if she's not careful. His thumb traces her bottom lip, slow and reverent. "You make everything better, you know that?" He kisses her then, deep and slow, like he has all the time in the world. Like she's not scheduled to disappear in 3 weeks. When he finally pulls away, his dark eyes search her face with an intensity that used to make her feel cherished. Now it feels like surveillance. "I was thinking," he says, tucking a curl behind her ear, "we should go away this weekend, just us. That estate in Jeju you loved. I already had my assistant book it." "This weekend?" Brielle's heart lurches. Isolated. Private. The perfect place to... "Is that okay?" His brow furrows with concern so convincing she almost believes it. "I just want to spoil you. You deserve everything, Brielle. Everything." She touches his face, lets her fingers trace that sharp jawline. "That sounds perfect, baby." The smile he gives her is devastating. Genuine. Or maybe that's just how good he is. Good. He kisses her forehead, her cheeks, the corner of her mouth. "Let me take care of you. Always. Always," Brielle thinks as he holds her close, as the scent of 100 roses fills their penthouse like a funeral home. Always ends in 3 weeks. The restaurant was the kind of place where silence cost more than noise. Private room, candlelight catching on crystal. Do-Yun had chosen everything, the wine, the menu, even the single white orchid between them that probably cost what most people spent on groceries. Brielle watched him across the table, his sharp jawline softened by the flickering light, those dark eyes watching her like she was something precious he couldn't bear to lose. A week ago, she would have melted under that gaze. Now she saw it for what it was. Reconnaissance. "You seem distant tonight," he said, his deep voice wrapping around her like silk. His hand reached across the table, those long fingers, the ones that had traced her spine this morning, now curling gently around hers. "Tell me what's wrong," Beautiful. The concern in his tone was flawless, Oscar-worthy. She wondered how many people he'd killed with that same softness in his voice. Just tired, she said, smiling. She let her thumb stroke his knuckles, felt him relax slightly. Good. Work's been intense. Then we should take a break. Maybe Jeju Island next weekend? His fingers tightened, just barely. Just us. No phones, no work. No witnesses, she translated silently. No way to call for help. That sounds perfect, she breathed, letting her voice go soft and grateful, the way she knew he liked. She watched something flicker in his eyes. Satisfaction, maybe. Or relief, that his little lamb was still obedient. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles with devastating tenderness. I love you more than anything in this world. You know that, right? 3 weeks until the gala. 3 weeks until he made her disappear. I know, she whispered. The food arrived. Wagyu, caviar, things meant to make her feel spoiled and safe. Do-yun fed her a piece of sashimi with his chopsticks, his eyes never leaving hers, that small smile playing at his mouth like he was savoring her trust as much as the meal. But Brielle was counting the security cameras she'd spotted on their way in. Counting the seconds between his questions, the way he steered conversation away from anything concrete. Counting the minutes until she could excuse herself to the restroom and photograph the business card she'd seen tucked in his jacket, the one with the offshore account number. What are you thinking about? He asked, tilting his head. You have that look. She let her lips curve into something soft and devastating, leaned forward just enough that his gaze dropped to the neckline of her dress. I'm thinking, she said quietly, about how lucky I am. His smile widened. He thought he'd won. She lifted her wine glass, let him toast to their love, their future, their beautiful lie. And while he drank, she memorized the exact pattern of his cologne, the way his watch caught the light, every detail she'd need to forge his signature on the documents that would drain his family's accounts dry. The kiss he gave her when they left tasted like goodbye. He just didn't know it yet. The chairman's private gallery smells like old money and older secrets, leather-bound catalogs, imported cigar smoke, and the faint metallic tang of climate control working overtime to preserve $30 million worth of stolen history. Brielle runs her gloved fingers along the gilt frame of a Monet water lily study, her tablet recording every brushstroke, every crack in the century-old paint. Do-yun stands behind her, close enough that his cologne mingles with her vanilla perfume, his hand resting possessively on the small of her back. You're so thorough, baby, he murmurs, pressing a kiss to her temple. My father's lucky to have you handling this. She leans into him like she always does, tilting her face up for the soft smile he expects. Insurance fraud is serious business. Everything has to be documented perfectly. What she doesn't say. Yes, especially when I'm about to commit it. He chuckles. The deep rumble that used to make her feel safe. Always so professional. It's one of the things I love about you. Love. The word tastes like poison now. She photographs the Monet from 6 angles, her mind already calculating. The forger she contacted in Busan quoted her 48 hours and $15,000, pocket change compared to what this single painting would fetch. The chairman keeps his collection in rotation, pieces moving between the penthouse, the estate in Jeju, the business warehouse in Gangnam. All she needs is the rotation schedule. Do-yun ah, she says softly, using the intimate form that makes him melt. When does your father move the Rothko to the warehouse? I need to appraise it there for the lighting conditions. His fingers trace lazy circles on her hip. Next Tuesday. I'll make sure you have access. He pulls her closer, his lips brushing her ear. You know, watching you work turns me on. All that focus, that brilliant mind. She forces herself not to recoil. Instead, she turns in his arms, rises on her toes and kisses him slowly, deeply, the way he likes. The way a woman kisses a man she trusts. When she pulls back, his dark eyes are molten. "You're dangerous, Mrs. Kim." "Only to your self-control," she whispers, and the lie comes so easily now. He doesn't see her photograph the security panel by the vault door. Doesn't notice when she palms the RFID clone her Busan contact provided, brushing it against his keycard while adjusting his tie. Doesn't realize that every time she says, "I love you," she's actually calculating the exchange rate on his betrayal. 3 Monets, 2 Rothkos, 1 Basquiat. And a Caravaggio the chairman definitely didn't acquire legally. By the time Do-yoon realizes his wife isn't just a pretty face with an art degree, she'll own every masterpiece in this room. And he'll own nothing but the memory of underestimating her. The helicopter blades slowed to a whisper as they touched down on the private estate's landing pad. Do-yoon's hand found the small of Brielle's back, warm and possessive, guiding her across the manicured lawn toward a glass and stone mansion that looked like it grew from the mountainside. "No phones, no work, no interruptions," he murmured against her ear, his breath sending shivers down her spine that she couldn't tell were desire or dread. "Just us. Like it should be." Brielle smiled, the same radiant smile she'd perfected over 2 weeks of playing the unsuspecting wife. "You spoil me." "I worship you," he corrected, those dark eyes holding hers with an intensity that would have made her knees weak before she knew the truth. Now it just made her stomach turn. The estate staff had prepared everything. Champagne on ice, rose petals scattered across silk sheets, her favorite vanilla candles already burning in every room. Do-yoon was meticulous like that. The same attention to detail he used to plan romantic weekends was probably what made him so effective at planning disappearances. That first night, he made love to her like a man savoring his last meal. His hands traced every curve like he was memorizing her. His lips whispered promises in Korean that she didn't need to understand to know were lies. When he finally fell asleep, one arm still wrapped around her waist, Brielle stared at the ceiling and counted her own heartbeats. 300, 400, 500. At 600, his breathing deepened into the rhythm she'd learned, meant he was truly gone. She slipped from beneath his arm like smoke, bare feet silent on heated marble floors. His laptop sat on the desk in the study, closed but not locked. He never locked things from her. Why would he? Dead girls don't tell secrets. The disposal contract was buried in a folder marked estate planning, because of course it was. Her hands trembled as she read the clinical language: asset liquidation timeline, incident staging protocols, evidence dispersal methods. There was a blueprint of their penthouse with her usual routines mapped out. Preferred locations. Times when she was most vulnerable. The bathroom. 3 a.m. sleeping pill in her nightly tea. Then into the tub. Accidental drowning. No signs of struggle. She'd been drinking that tea for months. Brielle's reflection in the dark window showed a ghost. Brown skin gone ashen, golden-flecked eyes too wide. She looked down at the document again. At the bottom, in Do-yoon's precise handwriting, transfer completion, 2 days post-incident. Lee marriage contract, 1 week post-incident. He'd already picked out his next wife's wedding date. When she crawled back into bed, Do-yoon stirred, pulling her close. "Cold?" he whispered, sleep rough and tender. "A little," she lied, letting him warm her with the same body that would hold her underwater. "I've got you," he promised, pressing a kiss to her shoulder. "I'll always keep you safe." In the darkness, Brielle smiled. Brielle's fingers hover over the keyboard, in the glow from Do-yoon's laptop casting shadows across her face. He's in the shower. She can hear the water running, can picture him under the rainfall head, washing away whatever blood or sin today required, She has maybe 10 minutes. The file opens easily. Too easily. He left it password protected with her birthday. Like he wanted her to find it eventually. Like he's that confident she won't live long enough to use it against him. Transaction history. Harper. Brielle J. Her own name stares back at her from dozens of offshore accounts she's never opened. Wire transfers she's never authorized. Shell companies registered in her maiden name, funneling millions from the Kim family's legitimate holdings into black holes that lead nowhere. 3 million from the Busan expansion. 5 million from the Incheon port deal. Another 8 from the art authentication contracts, the very work she actually did, now twisted into evidence of her theft. She scrolls faster, her heart a drum against her ribs. Every embezzlement the syndicate has suffered in the past 18 months traces back to her. Digital signatures that match hers perfectly. IP addresses from her laptop. Even a voice recording. Her voice, confirming a transfer to the Cayman Islands. Except she's never been to the Caymans. Has never touched these accounts. The shower shuts off. Brielle's hands shake as she finds the final folder. Contingency. Asset liquidation. Inside, a single document. A suicide note, written in her voice, confessing everything. Apologizing to Do-yoon for betraying his trust. Explaining that she couldn't live with the guilt of stealing from the family that welcomed her. I'm sorry, my love. You deserved better than a thief for a wife. The bathroom door opens. Steam billows out, carrying the scent of his cologne, cedar and something darker. Something that used to make her feel safe. Baby? His voice is honey-warm, concerned. You okay? You look pale. Brielle closes the laptop with a soft click, her face already rearranging itself into something soft, something grateful. She turns to him, all 6'3" of perfect muscle wrapped in a towel, water still beating on those dangerous shoulders, that razor-sharp jaw. Just tired, she says, and her voice doesn't shake, it doesn't break. Come to bed? He crosses to her, those big hands cupping her face like she's something precious. His thumb traces her cheekbone. You work too hard, beautiful. Always taking care of everyone else. She lets him kiss her, lets him taste the lie on her lips, because now she understands. He's not just going to kill her, he's going to erase her, make her a cautionary tale. The American girl who got greedy, who betrayed the syndicate's generosity, who took the coward's way out. And nobody will question it. Nobody will investigate. They'll just whisper her name with disgust and move on. The dress arrived in a black box tied with silk ribbon, delivered by men in suits who bowed like she was royalty. Brielle lifted the lid in their bedroom, sunlight pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows, and found crimson fabric that looked like spilled wine. The gown was breathtaking, a masterpiece of Italian couture with a neckline that would make grown men forget their names. A handwritten note lay on top in Do-yoon's precise script. For my queen. You'll be the most beautiful woman in Seoul. She touched the fabric, soft as a threat, and wondered if he'd chosen red so the blood wouldn't show. Do you like it? His voice came from the doorway, that velvet tone that used to make her knees weak. Now it just made her count the days. 5 left until the gala. 5 days until he planned to make her disappear in the chaos of champagne and political handshakes. Brielle turned, letting her face do what it had learned to do so well these past weeks. Soften with manufactured love. It's perfect. You always know exactly what I need. The irony wasn't lost on either of them, though only she knew they were both playing the same game. Do-yoon crossed the room, his hands finding her waist with practiced tenderness. He pressed his lips to her temple, breathing in the vanilla scent he'd told her 1,000 times he was addicted to. I want everyone to see you standing beside me. I want them to know you're mine. For 5 more days, she thought, but said nothing. just leaned into him like a woman who believed she was cherished. That afternoon, while Do-yoon met with his father's lieutenants to finalize whatever sanitized version of her murder they'd settled on, Brielle slipped out in oversized sunglasses and a black coat. The cafe in Gangnam was deliberately public, crowded enough that violence would be stupid but private enough for treason. The Choi clan's representative was younger than she expected, sharp-eyed and skeptical. He slid a phone across the table. "You have 5 minutes to convince me you're serious." Brielle didn't waste time on pleasantries. She opened her own phone, showing him screenshots of the Kim syndicate's shadow accounts, the ones Do-yoon thought were hidden behind encryption she couldn't crack. Account numbers, routing codes, the digital fingerprints of 3 decades of blood money. "The gala," she said, voice soft but firm, the way it got when she was done being underestimated. "Do-yoon will have the biometric keys on him. I'll get them to you before midnight. In exchange, you let me walk out of Korea alive." The man studied her. This elegant woman in designer clothes, who smelled like expensive vanilla, who was married to one of the most dangerous men in Seoul. Then he smiled. "The Kims always did underestimate pretty things." Brielle stood, gathering her coat. Their mistake. She returned home before Do-yoon, hung the crimson gown in their closet, and practiced her smile in the mirror. 5 days. The dress fit perfectly. So did her plan. The crystal chandelier above the Seoul Grand Ballroom cast diamonds of light across a sea of tailored suits and designer gowns. Brielle stood at the center of it all in midnight blue silk that clung to every curve, her skin glowing like warm honey under the lights, a vision so perfect that conversation stopped when she moved through the room. Do-yoon's hand rested possessively on her lower back, his touch gentle as always, his smile proud as he introduced her to clan heads and politicians who bowed with practiced reverence. To everyone watching, they were the perfect couple. The Korean heir who'd found his American queen, the love story that made even hardened criminals believe in romance. "You're stunning tonight," he murmured against her ear, his voice that familiar velvet that used to make her knees weak. "Every man in this room wishes he were me." Brielle smiled, the kind of soft, adoring smile she'd perfected over 3 weeks of counting down to her own murder. "And every woman wishes she were me." She let her fingers trail down his lapel. "Shall we make a toast, my love? I have something special planned." His dark eyes flickered with something, pride, maybe, or anticipation, that his performance was nearly over. "Of course, beautiful. Anything you want." The crystal champagne flute felt cool and solid in her hand as she stepped toward the microphone, Do-yoon following like the devoted husband he'd pretended to be. The room quieted, hundreds of dangerous eyes turning toward her. "Thank you all for celebrating with us tonight," she began, on her voice carrying that deceptive softness that made people underestimate her. "My husband has given me everything. A beautiful home, his name, his trust." She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the room before landing on Do-yoon's father, the chairman, whose expression remained carved from stone. "And I wanted to return the favor." She pulled out her phone, and Do-yoon's smile never wavered. Not yet. Not when he still thought she was just his beautiful, foolish American wife playing at speeches. "I want everyone to hear the same thing I heard 3 weeks ago." Her finger pressed play. Do-yoon's voice filled the ballroom, that same smooth tone now stripped of its warmth. "The disposal timeline is set. Make it look like an accident." The chairman's grunt. "Keep her comfortable and unaware until the gala." The room erupted in whispers. Do-yoon's hand reached for her wrist, his grip iron beneath the silk, but his face remained calm, almost amused. "Brielle." "Oh, and about those embezzlement charges you framed me for?" She tilted her head, curls cascading over one shoulder. "I didn't steal the black budget, darling. I simply moved it. All 30 million. Consider it my divorce settlement." His mask finally cracked, those unreadable eyes flooding with something between rage and disbelief. Brielle raised her champagne flute, the chandelier catching the liquid gold inside. "To my husband, the man who taught me that love is just another weapon." She drank, set down the glass, and walked through the silence in her 6-inch heels, the scent of vanilla trailing behind her. She never looked back at the beautiful man who'd tried to make her disappear. The gala exploded into chaos the moment the recording finished playing. Do-Yun's voice, cold and clinical, confirming her disposal, echoing through crystal chandeliers and horrified silence. Then the screaming started. Syndicate bosses shouting in 3 languages, guns drawn. The chairman's face purple with rage as he realized his heir had just lost them everything. Brielle was already moving. She slipped through the panicked crowd like smoke, her gold gown catching light as she disappeared into the service corridor. Behind her, she heard Do-Yun calling her name, that velvet voice finally cracking, finally desperate. She didn't look back. The car was waiting exactly where she'd arranged. Black sedan, diplomatic plates, engine running. She slid into the back seat and let herself exhale for the first time in 3 weeks. Her fingers trembled as she checked her phone. The wire transfers had cleared. 18 offshore accounts emptied in the chaos. The art sales, originals to rival syndicates, forgeries hanging in the Kim estate, had been confirmed an hour before the gala even started. She'd taken everything. In the ballroom, Do-Yun stood frozen among the wreckage of his perfect plan, champagne glass still in his hand. Security swarmed around his father, who was already barking orders for his son's head. The political marriage was off. The port deal was dead. And the woman he'd underestimated, the beautiful American wife he'd managed so carefully, kept so comfortable, loved so convincingly, had just burned his entire empire to ash. He'd thought her soft, thought vanilla candles and designer dresses meant she was breakable. He'd forgotten she was the woman who appraised empires for a living, who knew exactly what everything was worth, who had steady enough hands to swap a Monet for a forgery without anyone noticing until it was far too late. The sedan pulled onto the highway, Seoul's glittering skyline shrinking in the rear window. Brielle finally let the tears come, not from fear, not from heartbreak, but from the sheer weight of surviving her own execution. She pulled out the lipstick from her clutch, the same shade he'd watched her apply 1,000 mornings. Inside the tube, a USB drive containing every dirty transaction the Kim syndicate had ever made. Her insurance policy, her forever freedom. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a dead woman walking in a gilded cage. Now she was a ghost with a fortune and a future. Somewhere behind her, Do-Yun was learning what it costs to underestimate a woman just because she smelled like vanilla and looked like a dream. He'd managed her so well, right up until she managed to disappear completely, taking his world with her. The last thing Brielle did before throwing her phone out the window was delete every photo of them together. She'd been his peace once. Now she was his ruin. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't disappear like Brielle. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next twist. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to bring you more stories that make your heart race. Thank you for being here.